So this is one of those articles that kind of strokes my ego a little bit because I've been saying this since I started this channel at the beginning of Trump's presidency that, hey, these immigrants that are just their only crime is not having paperwork, coming here illegally, which is a civil crime, but like a civil offense, by the way. Like, it's a misdemeanor. Anyways, like these people, they aren't criminals. Not even most of them are criminals like Trump says. A lot of these people are just here seeking a better life. A lot of these people have families now. They work. They have kids. They're living what Republicans claim is supposed to be the good family value life. And then they're ripping them out of their homes and deporting them, leaving single mothers to raise their kids while they get deported back to wherever the fuck. Um, so yeah, this article is exactly what I've been trying to say. U.S. economic growth to slow in the next 30 years, fueled by debt and declining birth rates, CBO says. Weak population gains and increased government spending will result in slower overall economic growth over the next 30 years, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said Thursday. The CBO's latest long-term budget and economic outlook report for a time frame that spans 2025 to 2055 projects publicly held debt to reach 156% of gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2055. That's down from the agency's March 2024 long-term budget projection, which said publicly held debt would be equal to a record 166% of American economic activity by 2054. However, that's not necessarily a positive. The mix of slower population growth and unfettered spending will also result in weaker economic growth over the next 3 decades than what the CBO projected last year. Lower birth rates also mean that the United States is becoming more dependent on immigrants working to sustain growth. And that is true. Go look at bills that some red states are trying to pass right now, namely Florida. They're trying to say that no time limits on hours that 14-year-olds can work. High school students can work even overnight shifts. Like, they're trying to bring back child labor because of all the immigrants that we are deporting. Like I've been screaming, these people make up a good chunk of our economy. And I always say, because I always look around the world, I look at South Korea and Japan, namely, their birth rates are declining and they are freaking out about it. That is devastating. That is so devastating to an economy and to a country as a whole. They don't have the luxury of hundreds of thousands of people that just want to come there and try to work and live there and make a life for themselves. We have that luxury. Even if our birth rates hit negatives, we are still bringing in people through immigration, workers through immigration. So that is a luxury our country has. I always say our country is built on immigration, and if we want to still exist as a country and be a prominent country, we need to rely on immigration. Now, why are birth rates declining? I don't know, because over half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They can barely afford to support themselves, let alone a kid. Because, wages haven't improved. Healthcare is expensive. Daycares are expensive. We are in such a self-fulfilling prophecy right now where both parents have to work, because both parents, everyone in the household has to work just to get by. And then if you want to have a kid, well, you still need both parents working. And then it's okay, well, daycare, but daycare is insanely expensive. So maybe that's why people aren't having kids, and just the general outlook of the country is very bleak. You know what would fix that? A lot of policies that I've always supported. Free healthcare, a livable minimum wage, better infrastructure, free education, just things that almost every other developed country has, whether it be European countries or freaking China. We are so far behind in this aspect, it's crazy. So without immigration, the U.S. population would begin to shrink in 2033. And we are just taking a nuke to immigration. And I always get mad when Republicans say, well, why don't they just leave and come legally then? One, people who are here legally are getting deported. Two, Trump is actively, so the process to get here like legally is a very long and strenuous process. Like we have people here who are going through that process, and because it takes so long, they're getting deported before their court dates. So it's already bad, and Trump is actively making it worse. He is making those systems more strained, less funded. He is making it actively harder to get here legally. And that's a big problem. And I want to show you guys a couple of charts at the end of this that I always harp on. It's about immigrant crime statistics and immigrants' economic impacts. So the report assumes that all laws set to expire, including certain provisions of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, will expire, but the White House and Republican lawmakers have said the tax cuts will be renewed and potentially expanded, as well as suggesting reductions in government spending and an increase in revenues by taxing imports. Tariffs. Still, the report warnings and its projections for the future also set the stage for the challenges on the debt, government spending, and economic growth that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent insists the Trump administration can fix. Oh boy. Bessent has advocated for a 3-3-3 plan, which involves getting the federal budget deficit down to 3% of GDP, boosting inflation-adjusted annual GDP growth to 3%, and producing the equivalent of an additional 3 million barrels of oil per day. Yeah, dude, that's what we need to do while our climate is literally falling apart right now, is produce more oil. The Treasury Secretary has sought to discredit CBO scoring, calling it crazy. Because this guy's like a billionaire, big, like, fucking business owner, or bank owner, or some shit. I was in the investment, yeah, here it is. I was in the investment business for 35 years. I thought I understood how crazy CBO scoring is, Bessent told CNBC earlier this month. And now I'm on the other side of the wall. I can tell you, it's really crazy and very unlikely that we are going to get any credit in the CBO scoring for tariffs. However, CBO warnings about population growth cut into Trump's administration policy priorities relating to mass deportations, as officials claim that immigrants are fueling high inflation by worsening the housing shortage and depriving U.S. citizens of job opportunities. That's such horseshit, man. They're working the jobs that U.S. citizens don't want to work. And we don't have a job shortage problem. Like, let me be clear. We don't have a shortage of jobs right now. We have a wealth inequality crisis, okay? The problem is jobs aren't paying. A decreasing population could have profound negative effects on the economy. Oh yeah, real quick. You want to know how you fix the housing shortage and create jobs? You build more houses. You make an initiative that Kamala was going to put out to build affordable housing. Not only getting more affordable housing, but also creating jobs. High-paying jobs as well. Let me restart that paragraph, though. A decreasing population could have profound negative effects on the economy, as growth depends on adding workers as well as increasing their productivity. Falling population levels could cause a stagnation in living standards and create difficulties in paying down debts, as well as funding programs such as Social Security, which is dependent on payroll taxes. The report also comes to the U.S. is on track to hit its statutory debt ceiling, the so-called X date when the country runs short of money to pay its bills, as early as August, without a deal between Congress and the White House. Bro, we just need to get rid of the fucking debt ceiling, man. It's nothing but a political tool. Anyways, the CBO and the Bipartisan Policy Center this week detailed projections for the U.S. to hit its statutory debt ceiling sometime this summer, as soon as July or August, respectively. Michael Peterson, CEO of the Peterson G. Peterson Foundation, the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, what the fuck? Which, among other things, tracks the federal debt, said in a statement that as bad as this outlook is, it represents an optimistic scenario because policymakers are currently considering adding trillions more in tax cut extensions, which would add to the debt. Yeah, like, you think they have to raise the debt ceiling like what, $4 more trillion so they can pass their tax cuts? Like, I'm all for tax cuts on the middle and lower class, but tax cuts to the wealthy, you should be increasing taxes on the wealthy. Instead, you lower their taxes, cut non-defense programs, increase defense programs, and then scream that we don't have any money. Oh man, dude. So I asked ChatGPT, can you pull any data we have on undocumented and documented immigrant crime statistics? Because one of Trump's and the Republican thing is these people are criminals. They're all criminals. They're sending hundreds of thousands of rapists and murderers. I'm sure some are good people. It's the other way around. Yeah, of course, when you're of hundreds of thousands of people, statistically, yeah, some are going to be bad. But let's look at the statistics. Research consistently shows that both documented and undocumented immigrants in the United States commit crimes at lower rates than native-born citizens. For instance, a study focusing on Texas, the only state that records immigration status and arrest records, found that undocumented immigrants were substantially less likely to be arrested for violent crimes, drug offenses, and property crimes compared to native-born citizens. Nationally, as the immigrant share of the U.S. population grew from 6.2% in 1980 to 13.9% in 2022, the total crime rate declined by over 60%. Specifically, violent crime rates fell by 34.5% and property crime rates decreased by 63.3% during this period. That reminds me of another study that I read, and I think I referenced one of my videos before, is that statistically, when you bring more immigrants, whether they are documented or undocumented, it actually lowers crime rates in the area. Yeah. You think by the rhetoric of the Republicans that these are the reasons why we have bad crime in this country. Like, it's just not true. Additionally, a 2020 study by the Cato Institute found that in Texas, the conviction rate for undocumented immigrants was 45% lower than the native-born Texans. These findings challenge the notion of a migrant crime wave and suggest immigrants, regardless of legal status, are less likely to engage in criminal activity than native-born individuals. All right, and then let's just look at like some of the economic points. I just said, do immigrants benefit our economy? Yes, immigrants do benefit the economy in multiple ways, both at the national level and in local communities. Here is a breakdown. Workforce and labor market fill labor gaps. Immigrations often take jobs that are hard to fill, especially in agriculture, construction, healthcare, and service industries. Entrepreneurship. Immigrants are more likely to start businesses than native-born citizens. These businesses create jobs and stimulate local economies. High-skilled talent. Many immigrants are highly educated and work in STEM fields, boosting innovation and productivity. Tax contributions, federal, state, and local taxes. Immigrants, including undocumented ones, pay billions in taxes each year. Social Security. Many undocumented immigrants pay into Social Security but cannot collect benefits, which helps support the system. That's true. In consumer spending, immigrant households spend money on goods, housing, and services, which drives demand and supports local businesses. Demographic stability. In countries with aging populations, immigrants help balance the labor force and support the sustainability of public programs like Social Security and Medicare by contributing as younger workers. Hey, that's like a giant problem we have right now is Social Security, even though we could solve that issue by just raising the cap. Anyways, like innovation and growth, a significant percentage of patients, scientific discoveries, and startups are tied to immigrants or their children. For example, many Silicon Valley companies were founded by or co-founded by immigrants. It's crazy because of how like much of this information is backed by Silicon Valley, you would think. But, you know, that said, the impact can vary by region and policy. Some communities may feel short-term strains on housing or public services, especially if immigration is rapid and not well supported. But the long-term data across multiple studies consistently shows net economic benefits. Would you like insights? Nah, we don't have time for that. I'm already blabbing too much. Yeah. So what I've been trying to say, man, like, hey, these immigrants, like, we kind of need them. We are a big country. And let me pause real quick. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of Biden's immigration policies, like just taking tens of thousands of people and dumping them somewhere with no, like, actual good plan in place. Like, you need to do better. Like, if you're going to do that, plan better. But overall, like, we need immigrants. We should be making the process to get into this country. We should be streamlining the process to get here legally so people don't even feel the need to come here illegally. Like, we should be welcoming immigrants because, as I've been screaming about, this is going to be a crisis when we get to the point where we are losing more people a year than gaining. And like I said, the United States, we are in such a unique position in terms of immigration. And I think one day We're going to look back on that if things keep going the way they're going and be like, damn, the solution was right there. And we decided to mass deport everyone. So, yeah, if you have a counter argument to this, go ahead. Shoot your shot. Shoot your shot. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.